Ransom Widener has been an effective advocate for access to justice both in his work and in his role as co-chair of LSC's Emerging Leaders Council. He is Vice President of Pro Bono and Social Impact at 650, the tech arm of a Silicon Valley law firm, Wilson Sonsini. Founded in 2019, his organization works to improve how people access the law through everyday digital solutions. He's recently shared his story of how housing instability shaped his childhood in a compelling op-ed published in the Salt Lake Tribune. And he's here tonight to share his story with all of us. Would you please help me welcome Mr. Ransom Widener?
Thank you. I was 2 years old the first time that my family got evicted. We couldn't pay our rent, and instead of moving out, we squatted. Our landlord had every right to remove us. My parents should have paid the rent, or they should have made a plan with the landlord to avoid eviction, and they didn't. But there were 4 kids living under that roof. My big brother, Brucey, who has autism and is nonverbal, he was 8 years old. My big sister, Kari, who helped raise us. Myself, and my newborn brother, Kirk. My siblings and I were little kids. We had nothing to do with our parents' choices, but now we were all homeless. After that eviction, we went back to where I was born. I was born at home in a place called Cane Beds, Arizona. I say born at home, but it was actually the neighbor's home because our home had no water and no electricity. We've lost track of how many times we've moved, how many places we've called home. We think it's about 50. We moved at least 13 times between 1992 and 1996. We didn't always move because a sheriff evicted us. Usually it was to avoid eviction. But every time we had to pack our lives into a car, it felt like eviction. The chaos of living out of boxes, the stress of not knowing where we'd go next. I don't remember that first eviction. I don't remember very much about Cane Beds. I remember the place that we went next. Pioneers from Utah had colonized parts of Mexico in the 1800s. We lived in one of those colonies, Colonia Juarez, about 200 miles south of the US-Mexico border. We entered Mexico illegally, all of us in a van. My mom and dad and big brother had passports, but the rest of us didn't. Me and Kirk didn't even have birth certificates or social security numbers till I was 17. So Kirk, Kari, and me, we hid under piles of blankets and clothes so we could get across the border. And my family did a lot of stuff like that. We did dangerous things. And my point tonight isn't that every dangerous event in my life was directly caused by housing insecurity. My point is that housing insecurity is dangerous, and it increases the probability that a child will end up in a dangerous situation. We were at a laundromat in Colonia Juarez when a little girl asked my mom if she could hold my brother Kirk. And my mom thought that was adorable. And so she carefully handed Kirk to the little girl, showing her the right way to hold him. And then with baby Kirk in her arms, the little girl ran out of the laundromat, handed Kirk off to a man who was waiting for her out there, and then he ran down an alley. And my mom screamed for my dad to chase after them, and he did, eventually catching up and getting Kirk back, thankfully. Now, of course, an abduction can happen to anybody, but kids who have been evicted are more likely to be the victims of crimes. Evictions are associated with increases in physical assaults and accidental injuries and hospital visits. Families without good options end up in bad situations. My family lived in my grandma's attic and then the basement of a nudist who celebrated Christmas every day. And then, it's a funny thing now, it was not so great as a kid. And then with a family who tried to make my mom their plural wife. So just one bad situation immediately after another bad situation. We lived in motels. We lived in so many motels. 7 of us by then, sharing one motel room for months at a time. We lived at one motel during a police standoff. We lived in another motel that burned down. These cheap motels where we lived cost way more than paying rent at an apartment. But we lived there because motels don't check for past evictions and they don't ask for a security deposit. They're the only option for a lot of poor families like mine. But that informality cuts both ways. Motels could remove us without an eviction, and they did. Without the foundations of a home, every aspect of life is degraded. We were hungry all the time. 2/3 of kids experiencing housing insecurity go without food at least one day every month. Just a couple days ago, my big sister, Kari, she told me a story I'd never heard before about how she used to eat handfuls of dirt so that she wouldn't feel hungry. I remember eating grass from our yard. I remember getting sick because we were hungry, vomiting bile because our stomachs were empty. My family received charity, including from our church, which we gratefully accepted, but we rarely had enough to eat throughout my childhood. My parents didn't apply for government assistance. They never sought legal aid because they were afraid. They didn't have regular income, they didn't pay taxes, and they were terrified that the government would take us kids away from them. But even if they weren't afraid, applying for assistance, getting that assistance is harder without a home address. Kids without a home are more likely to experience mental health issues. Verbal and cognitive development are delayed. It was really hard growing up without the moorings of a home and a neighborhood. My siblings and I felt strange and disconnected, and we were strange. That feeling stuck with us for most of our lives. I started going to school when I was 11, and I was very far behind, academically and socially. I got pantsed on the playground, I got bullied. All of us got bullied. We didn't have the same opportunities to socialize and to make friends that other kids had when they were growing up. We moved too much. Our housing insecurity had isolated us. We had each other, and I love my family. We called ourselves the Travelers, and we always made the best of it. But kids need a community in order to develop. They need neighborhoods, and they need neighbor kids. My mom left my dad when I was 17, and our lives slowly started to get more normal. But chaos still followed us. It clung to us. About 10 years ago, I needed a passport, and my congressman had to help get a passport. Or I guess my congressman's office, his staff helped me get a passport. By then, I had a birth certificate, I had a social security number, but I didn't have anything else that the State Department wanted because I had almost no records at all. Eviction means grabbing what you can in a short amount of time, and a lot gets left behind. When we left cane beds, my mom cleaned out an oil drum, this big blue barrel, and she put all of our most precious possessions in it, including her wedding dress, and then she buried it under our house. And we don't know what happened to it, but that barrel is long gone. Most of our memories are just long gone. Like a lot of poor families, we didn't have anywhere to keep our precious things when we get kicked out, so we'd use storage units. And that meant some things getting auctioned off because we missed a payment on a storage unit. Most of our stuff got water damaged or eaten by rats. A couple years ago, after my dad passed, my youngest brother Danny and I, we walked through his last storage unit together, this unit his friend had been paying for. And we had to wear masks for the ammonia and big gloves for the filth everywhere. Everything I had to my name at 12 years old, there in a garbage bag full of rat feces. My big sister's diaries and her pictures of friends just torn to shreds by some animal making a nest. For me, that storage unit is a microcosm. It represents the humiliation of my childhood and of so many childhoods, of feeling poor and dirty all the time. No kid should have to feel that way. I don't have to feel that way anymore because I got lucky and I got out. My whole family, we're all okay now. My mom, Kari, Brucey, Kirk, Dan. We have good lives, and I'm very thankful for that. I know how lucky we are because I know the statistics about families like ours. I used to sleepwalk. I would knock on walls and ask if I lived there. And I don't do that anymore, but I wonder if some kid somewhere in the United States of America, the richest, most powerful nation in the history of the world, is knocking on walls tonight and asking if they live there. Because my family's story is not rare. It is the everyday, real life of millions of American kids. Children under 5 are the single largest group of Americans who've had an eviction filed against them. I'm not a housing expert, I'm not a policy person, I'm not here to tell you my ideas about what we should do. You have ideas. Or if you don't, your staff has ideas. They're good staff. What I'm here to tell you is that housing insecurity is a nightmare for a child. It's scary, it's stressful, it's lonely, it's hard to make friends, it's hard to build self-esteem. It can fundamentally damage the way you see and interact with the world, and it's absolutely terrifying. So my goal is that from now on, when you hear the word eviction, you don't think about a contract, you don't think about court, you don't think about grown-ups who made mistakes. From now on, when you hear the word eviction, I hope that the first thing you think about is a little kid, because that is who is affected by eviction more than anybody else, children under 5 years old. Thank you. Now I can read a room and I know where I am, so I know I don't have to convince you of this. I think we're all on the same side of this. But let's change the conversation about eviction together. Let's help everyone understand that an eviction crisis means homeless children, and that the status quo is a dangerous, chaotic life for millions of American kids who deserve better, and we cannot accept that. Thank you so much.